sitting up?
If you'd like. Whatever's comfortable. You don't have to. We're going to start with the quiet period and then talk. All right. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Happy fall, everybody. If you're tuning in here in the fourth week of September in the Northern Hemisphere, that is, happy fall. You never know. So let's settle in and begin with about 10 minutes of quiet and just noticing, first of all, your seat, your sense of support, where you're feeling held by the ground, and breathing into that experience of stability. And noticing there your breath as it arrives and departs through inhale and exhale, and helps your body wake up to the alert quality of being present right here, right now, wherever and however you are. You can let your eyes fall closed all the way, or you can gently cast your gaze slightly downward, just with some heavy lid and ease of focus. Some breaths may appear and feel that they want to go a little deeper, and you can welcome that in, lingering on the exhale, extending it a bit. And some breaths are just soft and shallow and quicker. Let that be the case as well when appropriate. Here in this case, we're not asking ourselves to do much with the breath and with whatever we notice about it. We're just watching it, just letting it be. And as you inevitably catch your mind wandering, gently invite it back. Can you cultivate a soft, easy presence for your breath, for your wandering mind and all of its inclinations, for your body, however it's showing up for you today, for any aches and pains and stiffness or lack of vitality. Perhaps there's agitation or tension that's showing up in the body, and can you simply have a soft, easy presence for that, an awareness, an acknowledgement, a lack of judgment. Just noticing. Just another couple of minutes here. Perhaps you would seek to deepen the breath a bit, to redouble efforts just for these last moments. bring your awareness back to your immediate surroundings, returning your mind to what's around you and what might lie ahead, with an openness and with a genuine curiosity. So, welcome, welcome. Oh, my setup here is a little unstable. Hang on. Okay. Some of you, and I'm not looking at anybody but myself, might be old enough. I swear I'm not looking at you.
I know you.
Some of you might be old enough to remember a game show from the 60s called To Tell the Truth. Yeah? No, because you did not grow up in this country, is that right? Or little bit here, a little bit there. Yeah. Chris, you remember To Tell the Truth? You do. It's a favorite in my family because my uncle was a contestant on it. But I can't remember the details. I was a little girl. Anyway, so if you're not familiar with it, the way it was set up was there were 3 contestants who were quizzed by a celebrity panel of 4. And the celebrity's job is to identify which one of the 3 contestants is the central character that's been described by the host at the outset of the episode. So he would say, like, tonight, we're talking to somebody who has written 10 plays, one of which made it to Broadway. And so 2 of the contestants are supposed to pretend that they're the playwright in question, and one of them is the playwright in question. So 2 of the 3 of them are imposters. They're lying. But are they lying? And so that's the sort of philosophical question that I'm going to pose, and we're going to unpack a little bit in the talk tonight, which I've titled To Tell the Truth. So there's a Sanskrit word. The word is satya, and it's one of the precepts for ethical living. It shows up in the Yoga Sutras. It's part of the 5 yamas, which are followed by 5 niyamas, which are sort of personal practices that are supposed to help us walk the path of unity and oneness. So satya in Sanskrit means truthfulness. It's the way it's most often translated. But it can also be interpreted with a little bit of a different nuance, which is it can be interpreted as real, or the actual thing that's happening in any given moment. And so if we're talking about this game show, this game show from decades past, within the agreed upon parameters of the game, the imposters are not lying. They're honestly and truthfully delivering on agreements that they made to play this game, right? They're not lying. They're not being deceitful. They are participating in an agreed upon endeavor. It's like any actor. Are they lying when they're acting? I mean, we don't really believe that Lin-Manuel Miranda is Alexander Hamilton, right? We don't think he's lying on stage when he says he's not giving away his shot. We're in it with him. And we're going along with what he's saying as the truth of our shared experience in that moment, right? So in this context, truth doesn't have to be something that we intellectually agree on. It's the way we're experiencing reality as it's showing up right then and there. So when people are talking about needing to speak their truth, it's really about needing the respect, the mutual respect that can honor someone's lived experience. And that lived experience is inextricable from the emotions that govern our lives. The way we experience something is so frequently colored by the way we felt at the time. So we can deliver a report about that time or that thing or that statement that somebody made, and we will characterize it in a way that reflects how we were feeling about it more than it characterizes what the words actually may have been. So here's the caveat. Like, this interpretation of truth is not going to hold up in a court of law. Right? It's not meant to be understood that way. Fact does not involve feeling, but feeling can and so often does distort fact. And our work is to be able to discern more skillfully what is objective truth versus what is subjective truth. And those are different things. Objective truth is what's tried in a court of law. But subjective truth cannot be guilty or innocent. It never is one or the other. Objective truth. A cat is not a dog. We can agree on that. Intellectually, objective truth is usually not that hard to identify. A slap in the face is not the same as a warm, gentle hug. If we saw two people engage in one or the other, we would be able to quickly know which was which, right? A voice raised in anger is received differently than a soft whisper. We know this, especially if it's other people screaming or whispering. But if it's us doing one or the other, there's a lot of gray area. Back to the cat and the dog, right? Cat, not dog. Dog, not cat. This is truth. But in the middle of the night, if you have both creatures who live in your home and one of them cuddles up next to you and you're half asleep, you might not know immediately whether it was cat or dog. So your mind might go to a place that's not clear, that's subjective. The slap or the hug. Right? If you're in a state of high alert and perhaps you've got lingering trauma and a gentle hand lands on your cheek, it might have the same effect as a hard slap if that's what you're conditioned to experience. It might have the same effect as a hard slap would for somebody else because of your emotional state recoiling at the touch, any touch of somebody else. And a tone of voice that's not quite loud and not quite soft can feel one way or the other way if we're conditioned to anticipate what another person is about to say to us. And as happens so often, two people will report the same event in either subtle or sometimes really markedly different ways because of that conditioning. Human memory is fallible and at the mercy of so many emotional states. We are preconditioned, and there are endless variables in play in whatever particular attempt we're trying to report on, especially if it didn't happen right previous, if it happened days or weeks or months or years ago, right? We are highly unreliable narrators of our own lives and of what we witness around us. There's two kind of famous experiments about this in psychological research. And one of them is, this is kind of a fun one to do. You can look it up on the internet. There's a video of a basketball game. and you're asked to count how many times the basketball is passed on the court. So you're watching really closely to count. It's like, they show you 30-second clip of a game, and you can count however many passes there are, 10, 12, whatever it is. Usually you get it right, like within one or two. But what often also usually happens is that you don't see the person in the gorilla suit walk across the court. Because you're so conditioned in that moment to be looking at the passing of the ball. There's so much else we miss when we're focused on one particular thing. And that's not an emotional state necessarily, unless part of your emotional conditioning is to please or to achieve perfection in a given task that you're assigned. So the other experiment, which is maybe a little more revelatory here, is that so subjects in this study were asked to fill out an accident report based on the video that they're shown of a car crash. And half of them, on their report, the heading it includes the word smash to describe the accident. And the other half, the control group, is given the word hit. The smash people were significantly more likely to report two things: higher rate of speed than actually was shown in the video, and broken glass, which there was none. The hit people did not think that the cars were going particularly fast, and they did not imagine that any glass had been smashed. The people who had the word smash in their mind saw the broken glass, even though there wasn't any. Were they lying? Or were they telling the truth of their experience watching the video, having been conditioned to anticipate something dramatic, something violent, something potentially harmful? We believe, usually, when there's no ill intent involved, that we're telling the truth. And we are, because we're reporting on our own realities. So I'll say a little more about this in the next part of the talk, but I want to offer a way to work with this in meditation. So we're walking in whatever moment you're in right now, preconditioned to have your experiences characterized in a certain way. Maybe you had a rough day. Maybe you had a great day. Maybe your day was just fine. It's not just the day. It's the week. It's the year. It's the pandemic. It's the lifetime. It's all of it is showing up right here. And in meditation practice, our work is to watch it show up and then to let it go. And that's all. So in this way, we can recondition ourselves to get a little more clear. We'll work with this again in a little while, but for now, we'll just take some minutes to sit with what's showing up. And I like to use one technique is to use the inhale to acknowledge, to have that clear seeing, the recognition of whatever's showing up. And then to use the exhale to experience what we call a calm abiding, a release, an ease with it, a non-reactivity. So see what happens, see what shows up. and see how much of it you can allow to dissipate. Maybe what shows up is relevant to the here and now, to some distracting noise or event happening as you're seeking this quiet space. So let that be acknowledged. See if it has a reactive response to some of your previous conditioning, perhaps. And how much of it can you release into the ether? Maybe you feel more of just a blank, a void, like there's no reference point to characterize what's coming up. It's just a mishmash, mush of stuff. That's okay too. See that, name it, touch it, and let it go. Take another breath. And release. Right, so this concept of, or this understanding of the concept of truth shows up as the cornerstone of all of Buddhist teachings. It's called the Four Noble Truths. So that word is front and center, right? Here they are, the Four Noble Truths. Life inevitably involves suffering, number one. We don't have to agree on that intellectually. We have all experienced it. We know this firsthand. To be human is to, at some point, suffer. The second noble truth. We can identify those causes of suffering, and usually they have to do with one of three what are called poisons: anger, greed, and delusion. We crave things, we push other things away, or we can't tell the difference. The third noble truth. We can do something to cease this suffering. There are steps we can take. And the fourth noble truth is the path that the Buddha laid out for us to follow that will do just that, that will relieve us from our suffering, the Eightfold Path. Yep. Central to the Eightfold Path, the middle three are the way we act in the world: right action, right speech, right livelihood. This is one way of living our truth, to choose words, thoughts, deeds, purpose in our lives in ways that align honestly with what we seek to contribute to the world, that will improve our own and others' suffering. And so, and especially in right speech, when we're talking about truth and honesty, and genuinely reflecting what we believe to be true, what we can feel for ourselves to be true, it invites us to check in with a sort of a visceral response before words or actions or even thoughts get formed. To check in and say, is this really what I believe? Is this really what I perceive to be happening? There's an ancient grammatical tradition from some of the pioneers of Indo-European language, including Patanjali, the author of the Yoga Sutras. And this grammatical tradition the word is spota. I'm not going to pronounce it right because there's an aspirated H or P. Spota is how it's spota. And it's sort of an amalgam of speech and hearing and knowledge that gives us a kind of a flash of recognition that whatever we're bearing witness to is true. And it has less to do, very little, if nothing to do with the actual sequence of words than the entire experience of being present in any form of communication, whether we're giving or receiving it. So it's a visceral presence in the face of exchange. And we can feel it in our bones if it feels true, if it feels relevant, if it feels in alignment with what we hold dear. Sometimes we speak words and we know viscerally, maybe even before they leave our lips, that that's not really quite what we meant to say. And there might be a tension, like a constriction in the throat, or a clench in the belly, or a little twitch in the eye. You know, if we're not really genuinely representing ourselves. And then if we feel, if the conditions allow for us to be safe enough to be honest with ourselves, because sometimes those conditions are not are not ones that are safe. But if they are, if we can be honest with ourselves, then we can be honest with each other, and we can reframe our messaging so it feels more genuine, and then it is more genuine. And that's one of the things we can work with in a contemplative practice, is to root out what's genuine, what's life-sustaining, what is compassionate, what it can operate with equanimity and kindness and love and care, and what's a response to emotional conditioning that caused us to put up some armor, that caused us to have to lie a little bit to protect ourselves. So we'll work with that in our final bit of sitting. Without overthinking it, the assignment or the invitation here is to find the place in the body where you think tells you the truth, the place that constricts or clenches, tenses up. It's the throat for me. Maybe for you, it's the eyes, the belly, maybe it's the hips or the shoulders or the lower back. Don't overthink it, but just see where in your body tells you the truth that something isn't honest in a moment. And start with just expressing some gratitude for that awareness. And feed that place in you with loving kindness, with breath that's infused with gentle care. So the idea is that we tend to this place inside of us in a way that heightens its response, its signaling back to our brain that says, hey, are we being honest here? Just feeding that place with an ease. with gratitude, with the notion of teamwork. Like any muscle, perhaps, or sheath of fascia that gets too tense, too overused, too strengthened, it then is rendered weak. These visceral responses in us get less reliable when we're not recognizing them as signals. So the point here is to feed whatever space this is for you with this full presence, this full recognition, so that it too can be more truthful, more reliable to help us experience the world. Just a few more breaths here. And then welcome yourself back to your immediate surroundings. Take another sweep of breath in and out. And I thank you. May all beings be at peace, free from suffering, and at ease in the world.